Greetings, everybody, and happy Wellness Wednesday to you all. I am excited, grateful, very content, and also excited to be back in the JN Life Class series. And this is our special three-part edition where we're focusing on the pandemic, we're focusing on the virus and the vaccine. And as usual in Life Class style, we're giving us practical, inspiring resources to manage our relationships, and also how we navigate just the entire conversation about keeping well and protecting well-being for our loved ones as well. So welcome again, everybody. As you're coming into the room, please make yourselves comfortable. I am so happy to see familiar faces. And of course, we have some new faces who will be joining us in this evening's class. So especially for those of you who are repeat attendees who came last week and who have been on for the multiple seasons of Life Class so far, thank you for coming back. We're happy to see you. And as usual, we're expecting a powerful, reflective, inspiring, and a resource-filled, good energy conversation with our beautiful Life Class family this evening. So this person doing all the talking right now is your regular host, Kamala McWhinney. I'm happy to be guiding the conversation again for this special three-part episode. And today, our conversation will be focusing on Let's Talk COVID, but specifically, we're going to be talking about navigating vaccine hesitancy and relationships. And to help me navigate this powerful conversation today, we are joined by Bishop Dr. Carla Dunbar. Welcome back to the space, Bishop.
I'm happy to be here, Kamala.
Yes, are you looking festive and rosy as always?
You know, gotta keep her thing up.
Yeah, like wellness dash up on you. So it's good to have you back. We're also joined, yes, by Pastor Christopher Morgan. Welcome, Pastor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well and giving thanks. Very grateful.
I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you in Life Class. We're also joined by Carla Moore, the ever effervescent one who's dropping a word of knowledge on us regular. Carla, I'm glad to see your face in Life Class again. How you doing?
I am well. I'm glad to see you too. It's always a blessing to see you.
Love it. And another beautiful energy, beautiful thought leader in her own way is Simone Sharrier, who is an associate clinical psychologist. Simone, welcome back to Life Class as well. How are you doing on this Wellness Wednesday?
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for having. It's good to be back.
Excellent. And I see we have the folks coming into the room, so it's awesome to see them lining up and getting comfortable. So as usual, while we're in the space, feel free to grab your coffee, grab your tea, your water, your wine, whatever you sip on, right? And just make yourselves comfortable as we're preparing to just circulate some powerful thoughts, some points of reflection, some lessons, some expertise, and hopefully we can take away some powerful points from Life Class today to help us on the journey as we proceed in life right now. So, as usual, let me do a little bit of business. I'm going to share screen just once more, just to focus our conversation for a quick second. As a reminder, our topic this evening is Let's Talk COVID, specifically about how vaccine hesitancy can affect relationships, and for many people is affecting relationships. All right. As I mentioned, our panelists are again Bishop Dr. Carla A. Dunbar. She's a minister of religion. She's also a personal development coach. Pastor Christopher Morgan is the lead pastor for Go for God Family Church. Carla Moore is life coach and artist. I've seen this piece of her, activist, academic, and alchemist. And Simone Sharrier, as I mentioned before, is a colleague of mine. She's an associate clinical psychologist. Now, just to remind maybe our newcomers to today's Life Class session, we do have a couple of things that will help us to better share space. We have the chat box, so you can drop your emojis, right? Drop your, all your thoughts and comments as we're going through the conversation this evening. We have specifically created the Q&A box for your questions for our panelists this evening, okay? And then, of course, at different intervals in our convo, we will be allowing a few persons to raise their hands and to come on microphone, to brave up yourself and come on stage, as it were, to ask questions of our panelists as well. I would like to hear your voices when you come to Life Class in the evenings, all right? And of course, because it's JN Life Class, we have some giveaways. And so Please stay tuned, call up your friend them and tell them live class is on. You have the chance to win one of 2 Amazon gift cards this evening to help you to do some retail therapy as we're still navigating COVID-19 and these stressful times. All right. So we're going to be inviting Simone and Carla to step a little bit to the couch, right? And we're gonna shed some spotlights on Dr. Dunbar and Pastor Morgan as we kickstart the conversation for today's class. So, ladies and gentlemen, we did our check-in already. Both of you are doing well, and I'm very grateful. Let's talk about this issue of relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And how relationships are being affected by hesitancy. So first of all, I want to ask both of you to reflect on the fact that there is so much polarization going on, so much conflict around vaccination and COVID itself. Do you both think that adding the layer of faith and our belief system, also adds just another layer of difficulty to the conversation? Let me start with you, Pastor Morgan.
Well, thank you. Yes, there is polarization. There's great divide in lots of relationships, and we really do have to look at faith. At the core of what we believe, it affects how we practice and how we relate to each other. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are divided over who the real enemy is, who the bigger enemy is. And there's a lot of conspiracy theory and a lot of talk. And what I find that a lot of people are arguing about is, well, who is the enemy? Who is the enemy? And a lot of our eyes are off of who could possibly be the answer. And we're looking at who the enemy is. And because you mentioned faith, we do have one big problem, and it is that before we look at faith in God, we have the issue of people not trusting leadership. At the core of everything that is happening, there's a great divide and the issue of vaccination is really an issue of, do I trust leadership? Who do I trust? People don't trust political leadership, and people don't trust professional or medical leadership in this sense, in this case. People aren't even trusting church leadership nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a big divide on who do I trust what the Prime Minister is saying to do? Do I trust what the doctors are saying? Who do I trust? Who is the enemy? Who do I trust? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of divide there. And it is a trust issue. It is a faith issue. And I look forward to talking about solutions to that.
Absolutely. And this is why I really must commend the JN Group for creating spaces like these for us to go into the meat of the matter and offer resources for persons, because it's difficult right now. And there's a lot of fear also. Let me jump over to Dr. Dunbar regarding your thoughts on if you think faith is adding another layer of complexity to the issue at this time as well.
Thank you. Kamala, your first minute, I was about to commend JN because this is really, really grand that we can have the opportunity to be able to facilitate a conversation like this that can certainly help us, because, if the relationships go on, the marriages go on, what happens to the church, what happens to the Jamaica, right? Because we are really infrastructure, you understand? As to whether or not the polarization is creating a divide, no, I'm aware that, of the role that the FBO play, right? The faith-based organization can play based on the level of influence that we have. And I have to say, we know because we're pastors, right? That we have, right? Because we are the primary sources of support and care and guidance. And most of the time, because our ears are on the ground, basically. But I'm also cognizant that chatter creates distraction. Does, right? And so with the many things that are happening and the many things that are being said, like Pastor Morgan said, the focus is really shifting from what is really supposed to be on in a time like this when we're having a crisis. It's a pandemic, and our focus is, even as FBOs, should be on one particular place. It's on different things and looking at who the enemy is and are. And so we are losing ground where we could be gaining ground. Right, we are very clear as to what we're supposed to do as our FBO in terms of responding to the authorities that are set above us. And also because we are FBOs, our faith is supposed to be aligned to the extent that we are not afraid of what is happening, because fear is not really for us. You understand? And so whilst we're supposed to be giving that kind of support and helping persons to leverage what is happening now and to ensure that their relationships remain secure even in light of the fact that they will disagree, partners, on the whole vaccine thing. We are supposed to be there to lend the kind of support and to kind of create the stalemate. We sometimes are not, in one sense, but we also have to remember that choice is a gift. And everybody needs, it's a gift from God, and people are to make their own choices. We are just supposed to guide the process.
So that's a very powerful point, that choice is a gift. And my mind already goes to absolutely, and consequence is also a reality as it relates to the impact of our choices. So that's already where I'm like, yes, it's like we have to find a balance between both, in my estimation. I want us to ground the conversation in some of the realities that we're observing. So for both of you, I can imagine as leaders, right, in the church, you are getting people coming to you, as always, for counseling at different levels, for guidance, for mentorship. What are some of the practical ways that you're seeing decisions around vaccination practically affecting relationships right now? Pastor Morgan, let me start with you on this one.
Well, if you're asking me again to say there is a big problem, there is a big problem, because one believe one thing and one believe another thing. So practically, speaking about the answer, what I do as a spiritual leader, and I lead over a lot of young people at my church, is I push them to their medical doctor, and I say, what is your doctor telling you personally? Let's make it about you, and ask your doctor what they think is best. If you don't trust your doctor, you need to find a doctor you trust. Okay, so in relation to the answer, there may be a couple, they have a family, so they have to think about the whole, but individually, one may be medically advised not to take the vaccine, and one may be advised that they need to hurry up and take it by the same doctor. Yes. Right? So of course, we do have to yield, as professionals to the medical. And again, at the core of it, remember there's a trust problem. One may trust the doctor, one may not, and so forth. But as people of faith, what we try to do is we try to get people to first of all not think about themselves before they think about the community. Okay, and we try to get people to not think about the enemy more than they think about God, the answer. So when we identify what the enemy must be after, the enemy is after dividing us, the enemy is after destroying us, the enemy is trying to mash up the JN thing and the JN vision and all of what the powerful JN employees are doing. The enemy is after that, and trying to break us up and divide us first of all. I believe that there's a lot more that you.
I think Dr. Dunbar getting some feedback from you.
There's a lot more that unifies us than divides us, even in this season. And I try my best we're doing a great job of getting people to focus on the answer, to focus on God, focus on the answer, focus on the real enemy and what God might actually be asking us to do and who he's asking us to become in this season. So we push the positive. We push how can you grow? What is God calling you to do together so that you aren't divided on this issue.
Has there been any particularly surprising thing for you, Pastor Morgan, about just the effect that the lack of agreement can have in terms of, again, just whatever connections we have socially, maritally, in the church, outside the church, etc.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me say two things. One is the divide is real. So we do have members who don't want to come to church unless we say only vaccinated persons can come to church. Though everyone is, there's only 50 people allowed and the room big and you can spread out and so forth. We have social distancing. But some just won't come. So people are dividing themselves. People are separating themselves, whether they're arguing or not. We are separated from each other. This whole thing is separating us. This whole thing is keeping us apart in so many ways. And Jamaican people not so used to not being together and vibes and all them kind of things. So we have a big battle to fight. But if I can just testify about the power of the good that's behind everything, right? We have been seeing, regardless of I think I should be vaccinated and I shouldn't. We have been pushing, and we have been finding people that have been tapped into innovation and tapped into newness in this season. There are people that are saying, well, I won't let this season bring me down, but rather I will use this season when I'm isolated. I will use this season while I am yet healthy and have breath, because breath is something that is valued now in this season. I will get going. Yeah, I will get going. I will be productive. I will work hard, and I'm going to be better at the end of this thing than I am, right now, than I am in this season even. So it is a decision that we have to make, We have to make a decision, and it is a theological decision. Bishop will tell you, it is a faith decision to trust God. It's a decision to win in God and to believe God, even when you don't believe the prime minister, to believe God even when you don't believe the health minister, to believe God even when you don't believe those that are giving you their best advice. The answer is positivity and pressing forward in the power of God and achieving powerful things. And I'm seeing a lot of persons do that. We have many examples of that.
Which is excellent. Yeah. Thank you for that, Pastor. Bishop, I'm jumping over to you, as you know, right now, to get your thoughts on what are you seeing in terms of some of the manifestations of, the effect of vaccine hesitancy on relationships of all kinds, and what's most surprising for you?
The truth is nothing is really surprising, but there's a sense in which we have to acknowledge that the fear is real, right? When I say nothing is surprising to me, in my, I must fix my jacket so I can look younger. In my little life, I have been through many things, right? So some things really don't stir me, right? When I said I've been through many things because of my death experiences and all of those things clinically. But then I have to acknowledge that the fear is real, that is out there, right? I am a psychologist myself, and I have had to treat with persons who have locked themselves away in apartments, in their houses, will not come out. I mean, the fear is real, right? And I have had to relate to them in helping them to understand that a lot of this is a kind of sweeter kind of thing, because the stress that comes with it, and the stress itself is a false thing, right? And you build a lot of anxiety on that stress, right? Which is not even real, because you don't have the COVID, you may never get it. You understand? So what are you locking yourself away for? But there's also something called a placebo effect. You might be aware of that, right? And that is now in relation to the vaccine, right? Where people are thinking all kind of things about the vaccine, and perhaps the vaccine is doing this, and perhaps it is not really the vaccine that is doing it, but sometimes the fear that is aligned with it, that people come away with from it, that is creating that. And so, like Pastor Morgan said, as a faith-based leader, I have to listen to the concerns of the people. It is important to listen to their concerns and not to go still giving more facts. I mean, they take Google for all of it already, right? I don't need to go there. What I try to do is steer them away from it, right? Putting information into Google to get back information, because Google have all the answers for them, and more than the answers that they really need, that will also heighten their level of anxiety and fear. So I just go at listening to their concerns, and like Pastor Morgan said, I don't point them necessarily always to their doctors, but I really point them to God. You understand? Pastor Morgan is dealing more specifically with younger people, right? I don't. I serve in the country, and so I have to be an example first, so that people can follow me, right? And so I have to have this conversation. One of the things when the COVID just came in Kamala in last year, I had to realize that my partner, my husband, and I have two different feelings about this COVID thing. He was extremely fearful, I mean seriously afraid, like not afraid. And while I was just saying, okay, it's happening, and I have to acknowledge that it's happening. And so with that understanding, I had to be careful about how I speak about it around him, or even my quest if I want to go and find out about it. Because while it is okay, while you are fine with it and you're fine to go on Facebook and go and try and find out what's the latest update, what are the numbers, him no want to hear nothing about it. So being cognizant of that, I have to learn to treat him or treat the situation and the information in such a way that I don't create more anxiety and fear with him. I do the same thing with my members.
Yes.
I do the same thing with my clients. I do the same thing, with my family members. I don't try to be in their face with something that I'm not sure how they feel. So I sit and let's have a conversation. A conversation for every family is important. For even church family is important to sit down and talk so that you can hear how other persons feel about it, so that you can know how to move forward. And then now, as a pastor, I can point them to the answer, like Pastor said, because that's where the answer is. The answer is not in what the health authorities are saying about it, because it's creating a lot more fear, but we have a responsibility to respond, to the leaders of our land. The Bible tells us that, because we can't be faith leaders on one thing and not faith leaders on another thing. Whilst everybody have a right to them choice still, and we can't negate that. Like I said, it's a gift, right? But we have to just be careful of how we do that balance. So I sit with persons, first of all, and I have conversations. So I have conversation, we have forums, discussing it. What are your thoughts? What have you seen? What have you heard? Right? And then for those persons who we consider to be more at risk, I'll say to them, right, okay, so you need to know exactly what your doctor is saying on the matter. So if you're young and healthy, like I think that I am, it might not be what my doctor has to say on the matter. It might be what my faith is telling me on the matter, right? And how I feel about it. And since I know that where my life is, and I know who controls it and who determines whether or not I'm sick, then I keep my faith there. But the conversation, Kamala, has to take place, and I think all of us need to have a conversation about it. Don't not talk about it. In relationship, when some things are problematic, like money and stuff, about to talk about it. We have to talk about it, because you can't assume. Assumptions are about 98% incorrect. You can't assume that you know, or that you know how the other person feels. So talk about it. You can't assume that you even know how your child feels, if it's even a toddler, because some of them are very astute. Have the conversation and age appropriately. Allow everybody to talk about how they feel about it, is what I have done. And then I take it from there to point them in the direction that I think that they ought to go.
So Bishop Dunbar, I'm not sure. I think whenever we're both, right, let me see if it works now. We're getting some feedback. So what I hear you saying is a conversation. I don't hear you saying, I'm telling people that they should or that they should not. And I was coming up to that piece because, as Pastor Morgan said earlier, we're here to actually ground ourselves in the reality, because we can't be walking around just saying, oh, it's not happening or what's not happening. Ground ourselves in the reality, but also point the way forward with solutions. That's what Life Class is about, resources and solution. So I was about to get to that piece of practically speaking now, for people who are listening, I want to take away something that they can, some language, some mindsets that they can, adopt from Life Class and from our very learned and experienced panelists this evening. For those persons who may be having strains in their relationships, so that friendship, who not talk to who, right? Who for mother put them out, or who for daughter say you can't stay here, whatever it is, because many things are happening. And social media is reflecting a lot of it, right? What would you say to them in terms of tips for moving out of Life Class and say, how we can manage this conversation? How can I start to shift it away from what I want and what I think to actually creating space to repair possibly breached relationships? Pastor Morgan, what are some of the things you think we need to be mindful of to manage these things?
Okay, right, yes, as Bishop was saying, the conversation is very important, because persons that are, there are two sides to this dilemma, this dichotomy and the tension. If you don't want to be vaccinated, then you're viewed as being selfish, right? And if you're forcing me to be vaccinated, then you're viewed as trying to violate my rights. Right. And the topic of what is to be elevated, individual rights versus corporate rights. Yeah. The Bible has a lot to say about the corporate right. And, am I more concerned about Jamaica than I am about myself? Am I more concerned about other people than myself? Am I more concerned about my my family. I have a wife and I have children. So am I more concerned about whether they get sick? If my parents, both of my parents are alive, they're not young anymore. And if I lived with them, what would my decision be? Would I still be saying, I'm afraid of what could happen to me or what someone is doing to me by being, so it's something to talk about. Okay. It is a real big problem. We also do need to talk about the effect that a closed economy has on our personal visions, on the Jamaica national vision, you know what I mean, on the country's vision to move forward and be prosperous, and so forth. What can we do? We do need to talk about it and do our research and study. What is keeping most people from being vaccinated is a fear of who is troubling them, who is the enemy, who's telling them to do something, and if I put this thing in my body purposefully, is it going to later on kill me, and so forth. So the question of where to apply our faith is a very, very real one. Do I apply my faith on, in not getting the disease? I'm going to believe that God don't give me the disease. Then, I'm going to apply my faith, if I get it, that I'm not going to die, or I'm going to apply my faith that I don't need to take the vaccine, or I'm going to apply my faith. So the question of, well, where do we put our faith? Again, it is a conversation. Not a lot of spiritual leaders, well, some are obviously, but not a lot of spiritual leaders I know are telling people what to do per se. But let me just say this. Come November 8th, we're going to have a lot of people. We have a lot of people now, and leading up to November 8th, a lot of people who want to go to America, they're going to get vaccinated whether they're afraid of it or not.
I can't believe you went there, sir.
I'm going to the fact that there are some things that are going to demand that our choice, the power of our choice, we're going to have to weigh everything. If I want to go to foreign, whether I have my visa or not, a lot of people are going to decide to do it. A lot of entertainers that licking out, if they want to get the US money, going to get the vaccinated. And a show in Europe, a show in Africa, they may say you cannot come unless you're vaccinated. So they may weigh it differently then. I'm not saying that these people would be hypocritical or anything. What I'm actually saying is we have to understand what's happening in people's lives. Nobody wants to have to take a vaccine. It's not, nobody's saying they want to. I am vaccinated and I didn't want to be vaccinated. Okay. I did it for family reasons. I'm not wanting persons in my family, and I don't want to carry that responsibility. So my faith is planted firmly in the fact that, guess what? God wants to keep me alive because there's some stuff he wants me to do. So I'm going to get vaccinated and I'm going to work hard at fulfilling God's purpose in my life. So I think we begin to speak about it and we begin to weigh our choice that nobody can take away from us. Nobody should. Very much, when things like, do you want to travel? Do you want to earn US money? Are you going to go abroad? Are you going to visit? Are you going to, somebody there that you want to go visit, you want to go to a funeral abroad? There's a lot, the choice, a lot of things are about to happen in Jamaica. A lot of companies are going to make decisions that corporately they are allowed to make if they can do so legally, and we're going to have to choose. So a lot of things, will affect our faith and also our desire to how we would like to live if we want to go foreign, for instance. So these are real things. I am. What would happen to us, right? If we realize that this thing is bigger than our personal choice. What happens when we realize that this thing is bigger than just a sin versus no sin, a right versus wrong issue? What would happen if we have to listen to the voice of reason, if we have to look out for others? I think we are called in this season to do a lot of things that are uncomfortable, wear a mask. I hope you guys aren't wearing a mask for yourself. I'm wearing a mask for everybody. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm wearing a mask Imagine we're wearing masks to not get it, but we should wear it to not give it, and we should wear it just in case we have it, and we should wear it because, because as our bishop was saying, we're leaders, and if people see me come to church and I don't have on my mask, for the whole week, they're not going to wear their mask. So we have responsibility. We need to stop looking at, and part of the challenge in relationships, and part of the challenge is we are getting inundated and caught up with who is doing something wrong to us. Mm-hmm. And who's going to try to do wrong to me? Who's going to offend me? Who's going to force me to do anything? I'd like people to exercise their freedom. And I like us to weigh the future that we see for ourselves and that God sees for us very heavily, and make a smart decision for ourselves, make a community decision, And
for the whole length of your sharing of your perspective so far, Pastor Morgan, I have heard so much about the bigger than me perspective. And that last piece that you mentioned, I don't think I've thought about that so clearly. Why am I wearing a mask? Am I only focused on, me don't want nobody give me them germs and them virus, but also that I myself could be a contributor to a problem. I could be carrying the virus and I want to protect those around me. And I think even as we're navigating this conversation around collective responsibility, around personal choice, and around managing relationships in a healthy way, that is such a beautiful analogy that we can use to just process. It's not only about me, it's also about how I may impact other people. And in relationships, and Bishop Dunbar have on our t-shirt, we advertise our marriage academy, right? So I know she teaches this in her sleep. Even in relationship spaces, that's like a tenet of healthy relationships. I can't just go seeking my protection, my well-being all the time. I have to think about, okay, I could be a carrier. I could be impacting. I could have this negative, influence on somebody else, and to take steps to minimize that. So I love that you framed it that way, Pastor Morgan. And every time I put on a mask, I'm going to think about that and say, that was something. Yes, it's not just for me. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Bishop Dunbar, please come into the lean in a little bit closer, please. I like you. So Bishop Dunbar, no, you're muted. You're muted, miss.
Me now. Is you mute me now? So because Rev was preaching, I just get comfortable, I just lean back, right? Because Rev was just preaching a while ago, it was a chapter and the verse ago, right? And I really love that too, because I was about to come on and say, Christopher, you're lying. You know what I'm saying? Right, but you see, the responsibility that we have as leaders is supposed to allow for us to look away from self, to look to other. We have to remember that it is not about us all the time. And as leaders, we are seen at an higher level, not only by the people that we serve and people around us, but by who put us into leadership, God. Right. And so we have to remember that. And so the selflessness, right? So that's where we went, like my husband and myself and my daughter, in terms of we operate a ministry. We first had a conversation and then we said, we have a responsibility to the people that we lead. And there are a lot of influences coming to them. We are not the only voice of influence in their ears. So we made a decision. We need to go and get vaccinated to protect them, and also to set the example for them, and for them to be able to make their own choices. So we can come back and say, look here, we have been vaccinated. We thought it was responsible for us to be vaccinated, right? And so we're now letting you know that so you can make your own choices as it relates to getting vaccinated, because we are not in this for ourselves. I had a couple who were about to dissolve their relationship because one partner, they were set to be married. I was marrying them. The spouse was coming from UK, right? And the female took the vaccine and the man called off the wedding. Call it off. Now, I had to go in there and point them back to love. I had to point them back to each other, because they were focusing on the external stuff and allowing that to separate them. So I pointed them back to love. I had to allow for them to understand it's not transferable, by any means, right? So don't allow it to distract you from each other, Because as Pastor said earlier, it's creating a divide. You understand? And the gentleman was adamant that she was disloyal because they had discussed the matter. But remember that when the vaccine came in, nobody never wanted to take it, including me. You understand? I said, I was going to come on and say, Christopher, you're lying. You don't want to take it, right? But anyway, right? So because nobody wanted to take it, but reason. Listen to the voice of reason, right? Responsibility, our responsibility. And so we made a conscious decision. You have to make a conscious decision. So the gentleman said, when it just come in, they discussed it and they both decided not to take it. So why should I go take it now? I'm saying, brother, when it just come in, nobody never did go take it. Not even the prime minister. Nobody at all was going to take it. The president of America wasn't going to take it when it just came in. You understand? But as we learned, as we accepted our responsibility, as we became selfless, right, then we understood the necessity of taking it, not just for us, right, but for the people that we lead, for the people under our sphere of influence, we needed to. And so what I did for that couple was I pointed them back to love. And the guy flew in and I wed them, right? And they were happy to be wed. You understand? And so that is what we have to do. We have to take or respond. We have to do that, help persons to understand that it's not just you. It's really bigger than you in a sense, but it can't just be about you. You have to think outside of that, right? So again, the conversations have to continue. It's important for the conversations to continue while we're not mitigating the fact that the fear is real and what could possibly happen. I don't know, 5, 6, 10 years down the line. I'm not a scientist, right? So I'm not going to try. I mean, as a scientist, must be a theologian. I'm not going to try to disprove and reprove the facts of what they have out there. What I'm saying to you is, listen, we serve a God who's bigger than the vaccine. You understand? And if our faith and our trust is in him, then we can rest assured that like he has protected us from a myriad of other things that came before this, he will continue to protect us. You understand? But let us not be distracted and divided over the vaccine. Like Rev said a while ago, look here, November 8th is coming. Foreign done, mash up, or Jamaica mash up. I don't know which one of them, right? But something I keep. Something I keep. Something I keep. You have to remember, say, your partner, you have to still, your partner have a right to choose, you know. It's not transferable, it's not AIDS. You understand? Your partner have a right to choose. It depends on how your partner is feeling. But there should be a conversation. So what I said to even that young lady, I said, you should not have hidden and take it. Because remember, you are going to be wed. You're going to be united as one. You should have had a discussion. Even if you want to have a mediated discussion, it should have taken place because I think it was more hurt that you did it and you hid it. Mm-hmm. Rather than if you had come and say, babe, I know we discussed it already and we said we never going to do it now. But after such and such, I made a decision. You understand what I mean? Conversation has to continue. It has to continue, but focus back on love. Focus back on why you came together in the first place before vaccine came in and COVID came in. Why? All the investments that you have made in each other, focus back on that.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, even in this 3-part series, I'm so grateful for how it has been structured. So last week, we focused on some of the myths or some of the concerns that people legitimately have, as well as some of the things that are just not truthful at all, that people are holding on to as reasons to not be vaccinated. And I want to just remind everybody who was there last week, Dr. Princeton Brown and our other experts, Scatterbarrell, came through and did an amazing job of sharing openly and expertly so many powerful truths and facts. And importantly, I think the way in which even Dr. Brown delivered his understanding of the science was completely non-arrogant. And I feel like everybody could understand what he was saying. So that was part one. Today we said we have to put the relationships in the middle because it's being affected by the myths and it's being affected by so many other factors. And then next week, we're talking about chronic illnesses. So we're bringing on a host of doctors again next week to finish out the 3-week series because, you know, I hear you and Pastor Morgan, and maybe some people will be saying, yeah, man, me understand, but me also still not sure about the piece there. So if there's anybody on tonight's episode who might still have some other concerns about the science, etc., and that's your barrier to taking the step of being vaccinated, go back, go listen to last week's episode because trust me, it was laced with just powerful truths and grounded in science. Yeah.
I hope you bring on a urologist as well, or a consultant urologist, because the men are having a challenge about thinking that they may be affected, right? Their sexuality and their ability, and their functions may be affected by it. My husband had some concerns along the same line, so that's why I think you hope you have a urologist on board
to speak to some of those issues. Thank you for that, Bishop Dunbar. Yes. Pastor Morgan, I see you rocking, so I figure you have some deep revelation that I want to share.
I always do, but I'm patiently waiting for a question.
That's fine. So, let me set it up for you, right? So one of the things I've listened to both of you, one of the things that I'm taking home is this pandemic is teaching us so much about human nature. Mm-hmm. And the ways, especially in which we love to attach things to our identity, and we love to hedge around that this is me, that is you, and we're separate. We feel very good about putting up, these walls of partition. I am this, you are different, and therefore there's no room for coming together, right? For those persons who are listening, who may be in some of the strained relationships right as we speak, somebody who maybe told a friend, you can't come to my house anymore, or I think you're being stupid. Some people use abusive language like that. What are some of the things that you would say to them to help them to either manage the conflict now or to repair the damaged relationship if it has gone that far?
Wow. One of the things that we've always had at our disposal that I hope we have not let go of is the ability to protect ourselves from the virus in the first place. We can prevent ourselves from contracting it, from breathing it in. Now, it's not easy. It's very difficult, but you have to wear a mask. You have to watch where you go. You have to not get so close to each other. You have to wash your hand. There are lots of things that we can do to not get it, right? On the other side, which I don't hear a lot of people that are not in the medical profession talking about, and that it is keep the dialogue going and keep pressing for and keep advocating for, what can I say, preventative measures and a cure. It's not so much a cure, but preventative measures and ways of bolstering ourselves against it. Push people to be healthy, push people to be strong enough so that if they get it, they get through it. Jamaica has a high rate of people that are getting through it, okay? And compared to other countries, and so forth. So we need to be talking about how to beat it, how to not get it, and how to stay stronger. And so vaccination it's not the only thing, right? There is a challenge. It's very hard to say to someone, let them in your house even if they're not vaccinated. It's much easier to say, because they will say, well, you can't tell me that. Because people are locking their houses to persons that are not vaccinated. In other words, I'm just stating the fact. How we can help mend relationships is, at this point, honestly, all we can say is, you need to wear a mask. You can be around people that are protecting themselves. This is something we need to do anyway. Other than that, I have found that everything changes when you are walking in God's purpose in your life. A lot of people are fighting for freedom for themselves. A lot of people are fighting for their rights. But I often ask them, what? They're even fighting for healing, okay? Why do you want freedom? Why should you have your rights? And what are you being healed to do? You value your healing. You value a life without pain and a life, a long life without pain. But for what? And a lot of people can't tell you, well, why should I live? So I can go beach, so I can go work, and so I can make money. Or, when I push people to discovering what God's purpose is in their life, the value of their life goes up a little bit more. They start to think about things a little bit differently. The value in their relationships, therefore, take on a whole different, it goes to another level. There's some people that you can't do without in your life, because God tells you mustn't do without them. You must live with them, you must work with them, and you must accomplish a lot of things with them, right? So purpose, to me, we need to get into the purpose conversation. why do you want these rights? Well, so I can fulfill all of what God, a lot of what unites people. The most unifying thing is vision and, of course, purpose, a purpose that is clearly outlined in a vision. We have a vision. We have to accomplish this thing. If you lose the vision of a relationship, then the value of the relationship is gone. Then it's a matter of whether you can make me sick or not, because you're too stubborn and don't want to take, or you are trying to force me. I'm really just pointing you pointing all of us to a deeper thing, to a higher calling then, and a reason for living, a reason for being healthy, that, and a reason for your relationship coming together. We must come together. We must find compromise. We must protect ourselves. We must wear a mask around each other, because, not just because we want to listen to music and eat chicken, right? But because we want to, because we have to fulfill the vision, because we have to build a better Jamaica, we have to build a better Jamaica national and fulfill this powerful vision that you have. We have a reason to get along that's bigger than what you think my health decision that I'm making and how you think it offends you. We've got to get into the purpose issue.
Mm-hmm. And that, Pastor Morgan, is a very difficult thing, doable, but it takes intentional action and consistent action. Because as you said, sometimes when you ask people, you're getting such short-term, I don't know if small is the word, but just very focused on the temporal and immediate and nothing bigger than, the span of my hands, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And so it's just to get people to think, okay, what else? And I think that's a whole nother conversation that I firmly believe in, just grounding ourselves in power. In purpose, understanding why I'm here, what do I bring, what's my value, how can I make this place better, when I leave than when I came. So I love that part of it as well. Bishop, I see you smiling and nodding along vigorously.
I love it. I love it because I've been trying, when I hear Bishop talk about the vision and the people understanding the purpose of relationship. And I've been saying to couples, you need to understand why you're together. Where's your mission and your vision about where are we going and why are we going there? Why am I in this thing with you? You understand? When we understand those things, when we have those things in place, it's like a Habakkuk to write the vision and make it plain. But because we only see those things in organizations and institutions, but we don't understand that we as a couple, as a family, are an institution ourselves. And therefore, there needs to be something that guides us. What are the core values, that guides us? What's the purpose that takes us along the path that we should all take, so that we don't come by focused and start focusing on this thing and causing this thing to pull us away from our intended purpose. We did already have a mission and a vision, and nothing should separate us and derail us from going in the direction of that thing. And so that is so important when we understand that we are problem solvers. Mm-hmm. We are here as problem solvers. We are placed on this earth to solve a problem. You understand? And so as Rev said a while ago, if it is that you just want to go eat chicken and popcorn, it's not a good enough reason for you to have a right anyway. You understand? You don't even have a right to have a right, because you don't even know what you're going to do with your right. You understand? You first need to know what you're going to do with your right. When people understand that, and that is what I do, point them to bigger things, man. Things that are far bigger than them. Expand their mind and their capacity to receive. You understand the intended purpose for their lives, and understand that you are not just here to say cash for gold, banana chips, phone card. That's not why you're here. You're here for something bigger than that. But somebody probably have to help you to understand that you are here to solve a problem. So be here about solving that problem, and don't allow yourself to be distracted by the noise that is around you. You understand? Focus on the thing that you are here to do. And things are happening. I'm not saying that you must turn a blind eye. I'm saying also to people, don't worry. Be concerned. Concern spur you into action. You understand? Worry not do nothing more than make you sick. Right? So understand why you're here. Understand that you're here to serve. You're here to solve a problem. You're here for something bigger than yourself. Don't allow anything, and I do mean anything, to separate you if you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, if you're in a family. Be responsible. You understand? And as I use this acronym for pride, take personal responsibility for delivering excellence in every area of your life. That's pride. Take personal responsibility in delivering excellence in everything that you do. And that is even if you go to a supermarket and you take up a can down here, so, and you reach up there saying about the one you can, push back the trolley, go put back the can and shot today. Don't say that, that's why they pay the people. We must take responsibility everywhere. In our relationship, in our homes, on the street, in our churches, wherever. We are a part of this nation. If we are not a part of building it up, then we're a part of breaking it down. And so the sooner we understand that and make that knowledge that we are now getting applicable to our everyday life, then life will be so much easier, even in the midst of a pandemic where we do not know what's going to happen. You understand? So these posting these things, I just see these things and these funny things and these TikTok things, and you make fun of the Prime Minister and you make fun of this. That's irresponsible behavior. You don't take part, you don't participate. I tell my young people, don't participate in spreading these kind of erroneous things. You understand? It's not about politics. It's about we are a people. We are a nation of people. If you destroy Jamaica, where are you going to go? You are a part of Jamaica. So you are responsible for keeping Jamaica together. And if we can do it together, let's do it together in a responsible way. Just remember that anything what you do, either in your personal life, your relationship, your family, wherever, take pride in doing it and in doing it in a way of excellence so that ultimately it will please the Father, because that's why we are here. That's our purpose in being here. My husband, as I heard Rev talking about the supplement, my husband takes his supplement religiously, religiously. And I've seen where it has helped when we went to take the vaccine, because I'm indisciplined where the taking of the supplements is concerned. I've seen where it affected me over the one day, while it never even, my husband never even got a headache. So I was now able to share that information to say, listen, your supplements are important, take them, because I've seen where it has helped, you understand? And teach these things. God said my people suffer because of lack of knowledge. And you see, again, as an FBO, we need to teach.
Yeah.
Focus on some other things, but anyway, let's not get there. But we need to teach, right? Because, yeah, we are very creative people, you know. Jamaica, all right, yes, God come from, by the way. Anyway, right. So we are creative, and we can find creative and innovative ways like JN has found. I mean, this bank, this institution is doing phenomenal. Like, can I say it? I want to find a word that's bigger than that. But you're doing well. You guys have been doing very, very well in touching lives. You care about the people who invest in your institution to the extent that you have created these classes, yeah, to help to impact the lives and destiny of the people who are a part of the institution and by extension, the wider society. And I'm just saying, let us do it together. We are creative. Take pride in doing it.
I love it. That's not like a dub plate. I love it, Bishop Dunbar. And then, so we're going to be wrapping this segment, but don't move, because we're going to be inviting Pastor Morgan and Bishop to come back towards in the final 15 minutes to respond to any questions and to give their final thoughts. But before you jump off into the corner, Bishop and Pastor Morgan, we have a giveaway. JN is offering one person right now the chance to win an Amazon gift card. And so I'm going to ask a question, and the first person to correctly respond in the chat box will win the Amazon gift card. And do a little shopping later, right? Now the question is, Pastor Morgan spoke of the date by which the United States' mandate for vaccination status. Oh, Lord Jesus. The social people have done my career. I think the winner is Anik. I think, yes. So I will leave Celia, Whitney, and Kevin and the team behind the scenes to pick up who the winner is and announce it in the box. But whoever it is, congratulations. And I just want to surface. What I heard coming out of our conversation for this first segment, something that stood out to me. You know, Bishop, when you were talking about, the clients that you had in terms of, the marriage, the engagement and everything, my mind went back to how sometimes in the news we might hear about brother kill brother over bulla. or over matches or over $100.
Excellent.
But ultimately, it's not about the thing. It's about the ways in which the differing opinions and the conflicts are managed. What did I say to you when I realized that we're not on the same page? And so if it is that we can kind of start to zoom in to the micro of how we have relationships, right? How is the way I'm speaking to you impacting you? And how will that likely cause you to speak back to me? And we create one whole big thing. I was just rolling down the hill and gathering a lot of negative mass. So if we can leave this segment just thinking about the micro of it all, the value of relationships. Why am I your friend? Right? I think it's a powerful time to start to reflect on that bigger vision, as you and Pastor Morgan spoke about, as it relates to, why am I doing what I'm doing in the first place? So whatever relationships may be challenged right now, what specifically is it about to begin with? And how can I take steps to protect it, to nurture it, or to manage it? Because maybe it's time to disband some friendships too, or set some boundaries. And we're going to talk about that more specifically in this segment. But before I let both of you segue to the side of the couch for now, I want to ask you, I want to put you on the spot. Have you had any personal or professional relationships strained because of differing views on vaccination?
Well,
go ahead, Bishop, please.
Okay, well, I had indicated that I had alluded to one particular couple, but yes, I've had more than one, and I've had to be helping them to navigate. And as I said, the key thing that I have done in this is to point them back to love.
Oh, no, man. I mean, for you, have you had any of your own? Yeah. So you mentioned that there was an issue in discussion with your husband initially, but have you had any other?
Right. I did that. I think I alluded to it earlier on when the COVID just came out. I was not aware of the fact that we had different feelings and emotions about it. I just thought everybody was interested to know what was happening, It's the next big thing that is happening. And so I thought that. And so I was collating information and every night I watch the news when I don't normally. And, I want to know what's the next number coming out. And so I'm feeding the information into my husband. And I know that I'm getting another, and I'm thinking, okay, it's okay, I'm interested. And so, and then I realized that, no, not really. I really don't want to know. I don't care to know. And I'm like, what's there to be afraid of? I mean, it's gonna pass, because I'm kind of optimistic, and so we had that little thing, but then again, it came back down to us and how we managed the misunderstanding then, if as it were, right, of how we both are feeling about it, and the kind of misappropriation too, of our own feelings in the matter. But we had the conversation. Conversations are always good to kind of dissolve things and resolve things. It's really, really good to diffuse. And so we had the conversation and we're good.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing. Yes, Pastor Morgan.
One of my best friends made it very clear last year. So, I'll see you after the pandemic here. And it was challenging, because he's one of my best friends, and he don't want to see nobody. So and I think a lot of relationships are strained. He has since been vaccinated and so forth. Another relationship that is strained, and this is very interesting. So I traveled, and in traveling, connected with friends abroad, and I have a great friend over there that is vaccinated. Of course, as I shared, I've been vaccinated. By the way, JN did not ask me if I was vaccinated, so they didn't know I was vaccinated when they called me. So they didn't call me here to promote vaccination.
Exactly, me neither.
What I'm saying is that I have been vaccinated, but listen to this. What was strained is that they were behaving like if vaccination is everything. So now that we're vaccinated, take off your mask. Oh, aren't you vaxxed? Aren't you vaxxed? What's wrong? You ain't vaxxed? And these are American people, and I was wondering, and I'm saying, just because you are vaccinated, it's not a foolproof thing. You're less likely to so and so, and then you're less likely to so and so. Right. But I said the way on behaving is like on a thing that what you would take going. We both since met persons, and we pastor churches. He's also a pastor of a large church abroad. And he's had people who have been vaccinated that still weren't responsible in their actions. Nobody's saying get vaccinated so you don't have to be responsible. Responsibility comes first overall. So strain, yes, there are issues with people that are vaccinated having issues with people that are vaccinated as well. Let me just say this. The goal of the enemy, right? Your personal enemy, which is the devil. There's an enemy out there that wants to divide every strong relationship that you are in, right? There is an enemy out there that wants to dismantle all of what you have good going for you in your workplace and the vision of JN, let's say, and in your family. The divide, whether you're vaccinated or not, the enemy is coming. So I look forward to talking to you about the one that's not the enemy, but the one that's the advocate and the one that gives purpose and the one that can give you a power that supersedes all of what you could possibly be afraid of.
Several powerful piece there, purpose and power, and that ultimate advocate. Thank you both, Bishop Dunbar and Pastor Morgan. Thank you for being candid. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, right? And your humor and all of this good stuff. And I can see from the chat that people are nodding along and they're feeling the power in what you are sharing. So thank you. And hold on, just stay right there while I welcome on stage right now, Carla, the other Carla Moore, and Simone Sharrier to continue in this conversation. All right over there?
Yes, all right.
Yes, please. So first of all, did anything from our previous segment jump out at you that you want to just jump on as we're opening this part of this? I say, well, if I'm nodding, Carla, you're not first, so let me pick you, right? Talk to me.
The part that resonated with me was the part about fear, because when I heard the question, that's the thing I actually started thinking about first, is how much of what each individual does is rooted in fear, and how sometimes I cannot respond to your fear with any type of empathy because I don't have the same fear right now. Right? My fear, some I go carry home something, go give me elderly parents and it go cause problems, some I go take the joke. Your fear, said the joke have something in there and is experimenting on panel because we're Black people, so me now go take the joke. And all of it actually comes back down to this desire to protect yourself from an unknown thing, but we're looking at two separate unknowns. So see the whole way here, but with attitude, more like this. Like this. Yeah. So that resonates.
I fully agree. Are we going to come to that piece about perspective shifting and perspective taking? Because that's a big piece of relationships in general. Simone is nodding, but more so now as relationships are coming under so many other forces. And there's so many personal threats being perceived by people. So the perspective shifting kind of taking a big blow in this COVID-19 time. Simone, your thoughts about anything that jumped out at you from our previous segment?
There were so many things jumping and, still a lot jumping, but what Bishop Dunbar mentioned about the couple, and somebody had typed in the chat that you didn't know that so many issues could, come out of this vaccine story, that you'd break a relationship before it even got cemented, because, and then I saw so many issues jumping out there that I guess we'll go into later. But a lot of things, and the fact that the conversation needs to be ongoing, we have to, because I don't know what you're experiencing. I don't know what is your fear factor. You don't know why I decided to go take, and that kind of a thing. So the conversation has to be had because everybody has their valid reason. And so we need to just keep the conversation going and be willing to listen to each other and not just shove it down each other's throats because we're different people.
Yes.
So a lot has been jumping.
A lot has been popping off. And first of all, let me just congratulate the winner of our giveaway, our first giveaway. We have one more coming. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Anik Bennett, I think. Congratulations. Please send an email to the team to find out how you can claim your good Amazon gift card from #JNCares group, right? As you were talking about keeping the conversation going, Simone, I think you've said it maybe 15 times since live class began this evening about the power of conversing and not hiding away from difficult conversations. Let's talk about the ways in which the conversation is not best served. Thank you, Anik. All right. Because I've seen some things even on the social media streets in which people are pretty much in a celebratory mood about the possible demise of people who might not take the vaccine. And that is taken to almost be like a badge of honor. It's taken to be some way in which we can convince them of their, intellectual inferiority, just so many things and so much unkindness that's popping up as it relates to who take it and who don't take it and what it means about people. So I want both of you who I know do coaching work, specifically around many issues, but also relationships, to guide us through what can be unhelpful. So people who may be thinking, I'm saying the right thing, but tell her the truth. I'm in a business, but tell her, say you're fool and you're don't, and people brainwash you, etc., etc. What is unhelpful, generally speaking, as it relates to managing points of difference and difficult convos, and especially now around the polarized views of vaccination. Let me start with Simone.
Okay, I actually wrote down something Dr. Dunbar she said to her husband, because for me, and I said to myself, quite insensitive, yes? Because she said to him, what's there to be afraid of? Yes? Mm-hmm. And I thought, the man afraid. I mean, how you even say that? And then I have been in circles. I've not worked with anybody per se, and I'm happy that nobody has come to me along this line. I'd have had probably parents afraid to get children vaccinated for various reasons, but not necessarily couples. And what's there to be afraid of? I'm part of groups, my high school year group, church groups, all sorts of groups. And sometimes when you see the conversation going and who gets put down, but they think you know better than this. I can't decide that I'm going to school with. And I'm like, seriously, how do we get off? I'm just pushing off our views, and it better you keep quiet and, that kind of a thing. And so there's so many things that are happening. What is there to be afraid of? Ask the question, but ask it in a different way. Let me hear you. Let's see if I can point you to somebody. Let's see how best we can work this through. But if somebody is just going to be throwing a question like that, to me, Simone, what is there to be afraid of? Who you idiot? I mean, I'm probably going to be just step aside, and I'm not going to be coming around you because you call me idiot and can't work with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking about how, especially when we're in intimate relationships, not only maritally or sexually intimate, but when we're very close to people, we take liberties like those because we feel like, I can't say that to you. It's considered to be a safer space. And I think it's a call to action for all of us to reflect on, even with the person who literally is my, I am their rib, or however we think about it, like we itch on, we're close like that. Let's also remember that points of difference will, always show up as well. We're not identical twins, and even with twins, we're not identical people, because I think I understand that comfort level to say, Mom, Tio, what are you? I remember seeing my aunt and her husband at a funeral, and it was his mother's funeral, my uncle-in-law's funeral, my uncle-in-law's mother's funeral. And he was crying because his mom passed away. And my aunt, given her strong Black woman socialization down a country, said to him, nudge him, because the tears were distressing her, right? And I looked at it, I was much younger and I was laughing. And then I was like, as I'm growing older, I'm like, there are ways that we show up in our spaces where we make sometimes we ask people to show up in ways that make us more comfortable. So I think that's one of the things too that's important to remember as we're managing these relationships in these times. Miss Carla Moore.
Yeah, I definitely agree that trying to make the person feel like they're dunce because they're not the same as you. I think there's also a way that we center our way of thinking about the vaccine as a right way of thinking about the vaccine, and we don't really leave a space for any type of conversation. And it's interesting because I think this vaccine thing has brought up that energy, that point blank period, there's no point for conversation. Like, if you don't take it, we're all gonna die. Like, why are you trying to talk to me about this? And we flag that up. If you don't do it, it's going to compromise my health. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that come onto it, because you're supposed to understand that taking the vaccine is life and death. And it's almost like we project ourselves out of the relationship. It's not just me and you are getting up. It's the whole of my side of Twitter and the whole of your side of Twitter at war. inside of this relationship. And it's a very offhand, condescending way. I think the other thing is some low-key threats that we use, especially when like children are involved. You know, oh, I can see that you don't take the safety of my children seriously. And that's something I really need to take into consideration. I didn't know this is the type of parent you would be. The underside of that is, I'm going to take what to pick them. If you don't fall in line and comply, I'm going to keep you away from them. I don't think that's necessarily useful. I don't think it's useful to small up people in any way, not just here, like in any type of conversation with somebody who you hope to keep in your life for a time. It happens, and sometimes some people they'll have a way of working through that where they understand that when things get heated, like this is how they might come off, and then they fix it up after. But if it's not something that you and your partner have experience with, and you don't have tools and you don't have that language, then this is definitely not the time to start taking that particular approach. But I think that you're for fool one there, that one is probably the most damaging one of all. Just how could I have married a dance? You know, just so simple like that. I think that's the one. And it's difficult to recover from because you can't take that back. So you think you're saying to the person, you're making wrong choices about this vaccine. What you're actually articulating to the person is, me not think you have any sense. And that type of thing is insidious, and it seeps into the other parts of the relationships. And it's like an acid. It's very corrosive.
Absolutely. And then not to mention when social media gets, as you mentioned, gets a wind of it. And now there's a lot of proving and posturing, you know, which side am I on? I want to be with the intellectual superiors, you know, and I want to make sure that people don't think I am one of them. All types of things are going on. And implicit in that conversation is a very powerful thing of empathy. And empathy to me is not only the ability to step out of my position and take on somebody else's perspective, but also, I love Dr. Cornel West's view on it, also having the courage to do something about the perspective that you're taking on, right? So let's talk about empathy in general. For people who are listening, all of us are in some type of relationship or other. What are some of the ways in which empathy shows up? Because we don't want to use the word them, you know, that are a little bit novel. We want to give people breakdownable tips, right? Language and tools for how to show up and be in kind and healthy relationships. Simone?
Okay, so I think as couples, really in relationships in general, people need to understand that we're operating as a unit, more so as a couple. It's a unit. So I'm putting you down means I'm putting me down as well, because we're joined, we're a unit. So if somebody isn't seeing something the way, if my partner isn't seeing the way I am seeing it, this is where empathy steps in, and then active listening goes in. Try to understand, why are they not seeing it that way? Bearing in mind that this is how I see it, which may not necessarily be the right way. This is just how I see it, but there are 50 other ways. This is just, and my way could even be wrong. You know, and sometimes when we listen, we recognize that, you know, I was wrong all this time and I never see it. And it's okay to admit that, yeah, I was seeing it from that way and I was a little bit off. But it helps when we can just, like they would say, step in the other person's shoes, get in the wilderness of the person's soul, that dark spot, and understand that, listen, the way I am feeling is as a result of 50 other things coming up into my 50-year-old life. Yes? As opposed to you being in your 30s and you never had this experience. So it helps to just listen, hear out the person, hear what they're not saying, see where the fears are, see how you're contributing to the fear factor. You know, so just listen the person through and try to understand, step back and say, yo, you know, had I been in that position, I probably wouldn't be handling it as good as you're handling it. Yes, but I've never been in that position. And so let's go through together. Let me into your space and let us, as a unit, as a couple in this relationship that we so value, let's journey together. And we might recognize that you weren't right and I wasn't right the right way. And we can journey together and find new plays. I mean, this is what relationship is about, to find new ways of doing things and make it even more beautiful. So empathy means, what a good friend of mine would say, taking an aerial view. And you're looking at the thing and realize that it's not a Simone thing. My partner had it right all along, and I was wrong because of just my taking this little one-track thing. So empathy is stepping back and seeing the relationship and not just a Simone.
And so what I'm hearing Simone say is that a big piece of empathy is being willing to not make the world about me. And I think that's very difficult to do, especially when we have not even opened up our minds to think that something can go so. Because many of us are leading with, as some feel at this, we are leading with just me, my. I see, I think, I feel, right? And importantly, not creating space for other people's I think, I feel, I need, I want. Carla, you're nodding up a storm. Please talk to me.
No, because it's so real, and it's also so easy to get there. So one of the things that I also want to say to people is forgive yourself if you realize that you've been that person, because getting stuck in that guilt is not going to move you all forward. But if it's necessary, apologize and take on board that there are other ways for me to be, and I want to explore those other ways of being. I think empathy is absolutely putting yourself in the other person's shoes. And I always say with Jamaican people, just remember, lizard. A lot of Jamaican people terrified of a lizard. The lizard big so. See the lizard here? This is just my head. See the lizard here? But if the lizard appear upon the wall right now, fly out of the ceiling, pulling out by my claws. It's an irrational fear. People would say, oh, but you're how many times bigger than the lizard? But you're so fearful. And you understand that no matter how people try, you can't get over that fear. We understand fear. We understand how hard it is to overcome. We understand where even logical arguments, it not connect yourself. And so I'm unable to let it go. And so bring yourself back to a point when you were that person, as you said, and also I think a lot of times when we come to these crossroads, we focus in on the difference that we're having, and we don't overlook maybe the times in the past where the way that they were unlike us was actually beneficial to us.
Ooh.
So for instance, you're a very conservative person and you are dating somebody and they're the bold one, they're the risk taker, and them decide they want to do something like they want to buy a bike. You is not here for the bike. And now all of a sudden the fact that they are risk takers is a big problem, and you can't understand why they want second down. But if they weren't a risk taker, you wouldn't have no adventure in your life. And then bring the little adventure in your life. You actually depend on that element to enrich your life. And so there are ways that the differences are beneficial. So can you ask the person questions? Can you lean into them with the intention of understanding? Can you accept, say you feel a bag of things, maybe give it a little time to breathe. You don't have to settle this right now. COVID is going to be with us, honey. Take some time to gather yourself and then come back and just ask, all right, tell me again why you feel where you feel. I really try here this time.
Trying to understand, yes.
Right.
I love that. Because it's honest, it's true, and it's also facing outward, right? And I tell you, I feel honest, but I'm also telling you that I really want to. I want to get your perspective. I want to take it on and understand it so I can respond better. But right now, I don't have it. So help me, right?
Yeah.
It's relationships are with us from we're born until our time on this planet has ended. And so I'm just reminding everybody in class this evening that it's an investment to get relationships to work well. We don't just wake up and just magically have powerful, honest, accountability taking relationships. It requires for us to have care, diligent care and discipline as it relates to how we're like what we're saying and what we're not saying. So I love the practicality of how we, continue to tease out this issue. Another thing I would want to throw into the conversation at this point, Simone and Carla, is the fact that sometimes with our best intentions and our kind words and reframing and perspective shifting, we still not go end up on the same page. And I want to just remind everybody that it's okay to not agree as well. Sometimes when I'm on social media, I say, I wonder if people remember that we can just say, okay, I hear you and I don't agree. Me wonder, because it's almost like there's this constant need to be proving a point. In order for my point to be right, I have to make you out to be stupid, ill-informed, ignorant, something negative for me to feel that my point is valid. We can have two valid points and they're very different and it's okay. So I want to remind us that we can say, I hear you, I feel how passionate you are, I don't agree. And especially if the person not living in your house and is not your personal friend, somebody you're in direct relationship with, can there just be difference? Right? Because old time people say that we can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. So if we're coming at people with how wrong they are, we will have very little room, if any, to quote unquote, convert them, since we think that they haven't seen the light. How are we going to show them the light if we push them off with all kinds of abusive words and language? Yeah. So I think it's okay to not agree. But on that point, let's talk a little bit about boundaries and boundary setting. Because in our previous segment, Bishop and Pastor Morgan kind of touched on the issue of, sometimes people say, well, you can't come to my house, you can't come to the party, you can't come to the building. How do we healthily set up our boundaries around our differences as it relates to vaccination now? Carla?
This is an excellent question. And again, I think it comes down to being willing to have a conversation. There is a difference between saying to somebody, don't come on my yard, and saying to them, here are my concerns. This is how you're not being vaccinated plays into my concerns. Do you have a solution for how I could feel more comfortable? Because my solution is to ask you to not come to the house. I'm interested in sharing space with you, but I also have these concerns. And in the explaining yourself, and then the person explaining themselves, sometimes you can both come to an understanding that, okay, not coming to the house is the thing it is. Or I can come to your house, I will wear a mask for the duration of my visit at your house. Okay, I'm comfortable with that. I think often when we come to, these points of disconnect, one of the big questions you actually need to ask yourself is, what is the deal breaker for me here? What is actually the deal breaker? If my partner refuses to get vaccinated, if my family members refuse to get vaccinated, is this a deal breaker? Is this a thing that's going to make me say, shub out, we're no longer speaking, bye? Or is it going to say, I'll meet you in public spaces? Is it going to say, I would like you to sanitize and wear a mask when you're at my yard? Is it to say, you can see my child from a distance. I don't want you necessarily close to the child. Call me, text me, video, FaceTime me. But I think it's about, and especially, and Kamala, I'm so glad you said, the people who you are in relationship with are not the people on Twitter, on social media going at it. We cannot use the same, we can't treat them the same, right? And I think conversation goes a long way. I know what I want. I can tell you what I want and why I want it. I will allow space for you so we can try to work it out together. But ultimately, if this is a decision I've made and I can gently communicate it to you, and then respect that you have the right to have feelings about what I have said. You have the right to feel a way about what I have said.
Yeah. And Carla, it's simply but it's not easy. Because sometimes we feel as though we have the right to tell you how I feel and then tell you how you must feel about how I feel.
Yeah.
This is not just about pandemic. This is not just about vaccine hesitancy. It's about how we relate to people in general. Let us remember that I don't have control over other people's feelings, nor thoughts, nor emotions. And I can enforce my boundaries, not to also, to remind people that you also don't have that control over me. Yeah. But sometimes we feel as though I'm right, I'm justified. And so you must feel bad when I enforce the boundaries. Simone, what are your thoughts?
Carla made a valid point. Gently communicate it, okay? So yes, this is how I'm feeling. And I have my space, my boundaries are here. And it's good to have your boundaries, to be self-aware. But then it is also very good to know your friends, know their limitations, and that kind of sets the pace for your expectations. So the way I communicate something to Kamala is not necessarily the way I'm going to say it to Carla, because they're two different people, right? So Carla, I can, just come and jump down your throat because that's the kind of relationship we have. But Carla it's a different relationship, and she's at a different place and space. And so we gently communicate. First of all, we need to know what is it we want and why we want it. So when the conversation starts, I can explain to my friend that this is where I'm at. There are comorbidities over here. So I'm really not at a good place. I'm not saying you're going to bring it here, but I'm really free. Yeah. So work with me. Work with me, please, until I get to that place. If I ever get there, remember we're friends, and after the pandemic, we're still going to be friends. So, this thing for me, when I thought about the topic, it goes way beyond pandemic, because every relationship is going to have many other pandemics. Yes, it might not be a COVID-19, but there are many other issues that are going to affect us. And it still boils down to my respecting your space, my being aware of who I am and what I want, and to effectively communicate it to you without shoving it down your throat. You want me this, I'm not change and take it. No, it doesn't have. Yes, I use this, fine. But because we're relating to each other, this is how I've always seen it for the 30, 50, 60 years on earth. Yes, but I'm willing, for the sake of our relationship, to hear what you're saying. And what may I ask you for just respect my view right now, because I hear somebody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And then also, respect goes not only to me, but it also goes outward to other people. And so sometimes we have differing views on what respectful looks like. Some people might say, speak to me respectfully. For some people, that might mean that you don't shout at me. For some people, that can mean that you don't correct me in front of other people. It can look like very different things. So personally, I have found that a helpful metric to use is actually thinking, is this helpful versus harmful for me? Because even saying speak to me kindly or be kind to me can look like very different things to different people. So I know what's helpful and harmful for me. And if I can communicate that to you, it's clearer than if I say, I feel like you diss me, you're disrespecting me. Because people can say, but I do want to start a little loudish because I did kind of in the passion. And people say, no. Volume for me is like decibels equate to disrespect level. And we're all very different. Yes? Yeah, something to bear in mind. We have a question in our box. And the question says, is the real crux of the matter that Jamaicans have too many things to fear that COVID-19 pales in comparison? No food to eat, no clothes to wear, no house to live in, life with the constant sound of artillery bombs, gunfire in Jamaica, life over lifestyle and even relationships. And I think this question is one that several people are reflecting on, and several persons perhaps were maybe was a big part of their processing to say, listen, COVID are the least of my worries right now, because right now the lockdown make me can't go hustle, me can't sell my peanuts, or I can't open my salon or my shop or whatever it is. So I'm going to really have the mental space to process COVID-19. And so ladies, tell me if you all agree, because I feel like this brings us back to our hierarchy of needs, right? To my mind, COVID poses a really direct threat to life, not just economic stability, if we can make a money or no. It also does that, but more than that, it can take me out and cause me to no longer be in the earth, right? And so I feel like I understand how, when it is that we have so many things affecting us, we can become, again, as Pastor Morgan mentioned, start to focus on the micro, like my immediate bread, my immediate so-and-so. And I have to, especially, I'm going to link it back to even my experience as a breast cancer survivor. I had to learn how to zoom out and how to look at life as just bigger than right now. You know what I mean? I had to start to have conversations early about insurance, etc. Because it's not just about me getting a paycheck now and go live bossy life. It's about what if this comes back. You understand what I mean? So I take the point, and I would never want to be a part of a space that's minimizing the impact of real social ills, because obviously Simone and I especially, and Bishop Dunbar, we do this for a living. Like, we support people in ways that they're affected by many social ills. Poverty causes people to get into depression, etc., right? Violence against women, children, men, everything is causing PTSD, etc. However, COVID-19 for me is the threat of it can be to life and not only to economic stability, etc. So while those points are also true, I would still personally maintain that focusing on managing our risk as it relates to COVID exposure is still a priority, because life to me is at the pinnacle, is at the foundation of that hierarchy. Any thoughts from Carla or?
Yeah, so I work in HIV. I've worked in HIV for years. And so the example I'm going to draw, some people might be like, pardon, but go with me here. A lot of times when we try to speak to sex workers about HIV and why it's important for them to protect themselves. And let me be clear, sex workers are a success story in terms of HIV. They've brought their prevalence all the way down because they took themselves seriously. They did what they had to do. Okay, big up to them. But when you talk to them about it, some of them will tell you, I have more imminent threats. I really do. I'm out here working on the streets. Anybody could pass and do anything that they want to do to me just in the course of doing my work. So for you from the HIV program, HIV seems like the biggest threat that I might be encountering. But from me, as a person who is standing on the street, probably 4 other bad things are going to happen to me before that could happen to me. Mm-hmm. And we really had to take that on board and to understand that our perception of risk is absolutely shaped by where we are. It's shaped by our social situation. It's shaped by how many buffers are between us and something that feels like it's absolutely going to get you. And I think that's how people are assessing COVID. They're looking around and they're being like, yeah, man, plenty of people have it, but the majority of people don't.
I mean, I see the people who have it. I
see them. What I am seeing is people who are running out of food. What I am seeing is people who can't work. What I am seeing who people, the whole house are mashed down upon them. I am seeing that. And that shifts your perception, And I think I'm glad that question came up because it is something that we have to face head on. Anytime we have something in Jamaica that we're asking people to prioritize, we absolutely have to think about how the lack of social buffers shifts your priority. And when you're in that survival, food and water type of survival thinking, it's very difficult for people to convince you that something that might get you is something that you really need to be concerned about.
Excellently said, Carla. Thank you for that. Simone?
And just to add to that, while we're in the same storm, we're not in the same boat. Some of us don't even have no boat. Some people can swim. Some people are terrified of water like myself. And so there are many things that are coming at you. And when we wait against relationships, these are the things that we have to weigh. Well, may I deal with it? I mean, I respond that way. Like, so who cares? I mean, I am not you. Yes. Yeah, behave like. Yes, may I behave like, because this is the position I'm in. I'll share with you, and this is, well, it's COVID related, but not directly. When one of my, I'm a mommy, when one of my girls' schools sent out how they're going to approach handling school, and the girls should wear their skirt over their PE, this and that and that. And here was Simone thinking, so why you can't just drop them off in them PE clothes? And reality hit me. It's not everybody I get drop off, Simone. What is your problem? You're very insensitive. Some people are taking 3 buses and that kind of a thing. And why would you want to have your young lady, your 16-year-old, dressed up in PE garb on a bus? And that has stayed with me. How insensitive I was, because I was just thinking about my reality. You pick them, just go walk 2 steps into the car, and you drop them off and you pick them up. What's the big problem? Why is the school creating this kind of a thing? And it has caused me to every time reflect and think about the other person, that we have different kinds of relationships, and you can have, 2 partners and they're in the same space, they live same space, They have different jobs. They have different mindsets. So the thing is not affecting me. I'm coming out of a volatile situation or a working one. So when I get home, it's a different thing. So nobody come to me no COVID argument no, because these many other things are affecting me. We can't emphasize enough how much the conversation has to go on and how we have to gently communicate what we communicate and hear our partners, hear what we're not saying, because sometimes we can't even say it. So you would have been with somebody over time, right? And you know that Simone normally reacts in kind of way or something not go on. Find some time to kind of just probably ease off a little bit or ask the question 4 different ways because you care. We're here to nurture our relationships. So, Kamala did say so. All right, me have time she now answer. Ease up no man, a 4 year now, a 10 years. Work with it. Just ease off a little bit and hear what is not being said.
Yeah. And trust me, these are skills, these are literal muscles that if we don't work them, we don't have them. And even if we build them, if we're not consistently toning and lifting, we lose them, right? I saw a comment in the chat from George. George was referencing something I was talking about, how we don't always leave space for us to not agree. And he said, true, Kamala, we are not as tolerant of our differences. We don't have to be the same. I love this. There is richness in our diversity, and generating healthy discourse to show our beliefs is good without necessarily changing each other. I love that piece of it, yeah? Because sometimes we feel as though the end of any conversation needs to be that I convert you or you convert me, right?
Might I just add here, Kamala, sorry, that all of us here on this panel, we're all in glasses, right? And I looked at it and the frames are different, but they're serving each other's purpose. I mean, Carla may never wear my glasses. I mean, I may never wear Kamala's glasses. But they're helping us, and they're all doing the same thing, helping us, giving us a clearer vision. So we need to be tolerant. What kind of glasses that Carla have on? That kind of a thing. We need to be tolerant, as the person said. Yes, we need to, because we serve different purposes. I mean, Kamala might have clients and she's doing her thing and I take a different approach, but we're serving a purpose. So be tolerant and be willing to welcome others into our space in the different ways.
Absolutely. And then even with that, I love the preceding segment from Bishop and Pastor who talked about the fact that let's also practice zoning out of self and I need. That's important. I am an advocate for people speaking up for their needs, but also in a moment like this in history to think about the bigger, the collective good, right? And then taking steps to say, if I have concerns, if I think that I don't have enough information, there are ways to get that. There are ways to get that information. If I'm not sure how to get vaccinated, there are ways. And I'm going to share one that JN is offering just in a few days. So there are things that we can do to move us from point A to point B. But I personally get a little bit concerned when we just literally seem to be a little bit addicted to the controversy. We just like the cascas and the chaos of it all. We like the fact that, we are drawing lines in the sand on Twitter, in WhatsApp, on Facebook, about who is right and who is wrong. It will not get us to the point where we want it to get us to. So this is us this evening, JN Group, in this live class space, inviting people to start looking at some different tools, because obviously the other ones are not working effectively to bring about the desired outcome. Yeah, so that's also important. Let me just say here that as Simone was talking about perspective and the glasses and, how she realized that she was being very locked into her viewpoint, even as it related to her daughter and that school situation. Something similar happened for me while I was going through a particular course of medication, and some of those meds were steroids. And I was the roundest I have been in my life. So that even my auntie to me, I said, Kamala, I swell your face swell, or what happened? Why you look like this? My auntie would know me from birth. And I do not know that I've ever had biases towards people who body look different than mine, people who have larger bodies. But even if made plan to have them biased there, that taught me something real quick, that Kamala, you had very little control over how your body changed. And so just that piece, and I've taught it to my students when I was lecturing, that I think those moments where we realize that, oh my word, maybe I have been leading with this or having it in the back of my mind. Let me just hurry up and just undo this, right? And consider the different reasons behind people's situation and leaving room, again, for differences of opinion, right? So we're creating space, Carla and Simone, to bring back on Bishop Dunbar and Pastor Morgan. But before we do that, I want to get your final takeaways for those who are listening in our segment here about the practicality of managing relationships. Anything else you want to say to them to be mindful of how we're managing the vaccine hesitancy and the who right, who wrong narrative? Simone, you're already lit up on my screen, so I'll pick on you.
Just to, I guess we've been saying it, but don't force things. Yes, and you know, I keep saying what Carla said because I just really love the point. Gently communicate. You're not just communicating, but gently doing it. Take time out. I mean, you're not right and the other person wrong. We both can be right. We both can be wrong. So as it relates to this whole COVID thing and how it affects relationships, remember we're in this thing together. Remember that it's not just about COVID, it's about how we relate with other things. So just take some time and live during the process. Live during the process and enjoy life. Don't force the issue, but like you alluded to, Kamala, if you need to advise someone where they can go for further information, do so and follow them. Today it was a very, allow me, you know, I had a presentation on Friday and somebody called because the person, a client came in and the client wasn't a part of the presentation, but somebody was sitting on and thought they need to hear this. They need to go speak to this person. So they drove miles, went for the person after they encouraged them to come and sit because the person would have confided in them. And they drove them and they sat with them and they waited on them. The person not going through this issue, you know, and never did. But this is the person stepping into the wilderness of the soul of the other person and say, I think you need this. Let me share it with you. So if I think you need to be vaccinated, I think I can say, I think you should. And these are the reasons why I think you should. And then listen to the person. But now I get no vaccine because yada, yada, yada. All right, fine. When you're ready for go, me go with you. Me go stand up in the long line, me carry a buckle of water for it, whatever the situation is. Or just pick up on when JN is doing it and, you know, go slide through and get your vaccine. I mean, no hassle right there.
Absolutely. I love that. And, you know, I've been just logging on to this recent slogan. It's not new, but it has a resurgence, that support is a verb. So sometimes we talk about, oh, I want to be of support in this process, And sometimes it can literally look like sitting with someone who has a concern and leading with curiosity. Say to them, help me understand why you take this decision. As opposed to, you anti-vaxxers, and we label people without them even telling us that you anti-vaxxer people causing so much problem, and that's why so much people are dead. And we put so many things on people's decisions that we haven't created space to hear more about. So curiosity, help me understand where you're coming from. Have you read this? Since we feel like we're intellectually superior if we choose to be vaccinated, where your facts there? Where they document them the way you have, where the literature review, show the people them they know lovingly and kindly, as Carla said. And show them that, I was also there and this helped to change my mind. For me personally, as Kamala, I've had a couple health issues that I'm still managing and watching. So I was like, let me just manage these before I do it. And I got my job and I'm glad I did. So for people who may say to me, Kamala, I have pre-existing or I had this condition or this diagnosis, I get it. So how can I now be hypocritical and say, no, just do it. And just don't do it. No, I have to at least open up to people and say, yeah, man, I understand how you may want to, to take care of some health stuff first, etc. And then curiosity, support, empathy, and kindness. Carla.
I'm very glad that you spoke about leading with curiosity and also about acknowledging your own journey. Nobody wants to learn from a perfect person. Nobody wants to learn from somebody who has never had to learn. And so that journey that you went on is actually one of the things that will help people to understand, right? I think the advice I would give to people is come back to the fullness of the person that you're looking at and the fullness of your feelings for them. You may be frustrated right now. And as you said, you may have turned this person from my partner, from my parent, from my friend into an anti-vaxxer. Them not have no other identifying characteristics. Them is just an anti-vaxxer.
So minimizing.
It's so minimizing. This label and discard. Come back to the fullness of what you feel for the person. Long term, what you used to feel for them before 2019, if necessary, please, and speak to them from that place. Recognize that it might be difficult for you, but it's still possible, and no make nobody boost you. I think it might also be useful for some of us to take a break from the social media chatter about the vaccine before we try to have a conversation with an actual person about it, because there is some petrol there. It is 90, it boosts me. And so like we're going with, we're talking to people with chest because we have a whole community telling us that our way of seeing it is right. That energy is not going to get you anywhere in your relationship. So who is this person to you in their fullness? Not who is this person in relation to the vaccine? Who is this person to you? And when you're talking to this person who is somebody to you, how do you speak to them? And then joke that into this issue and talk to them that way.
That's the most profound use of the word joke I've heard in a while. Joke that into this issue, right? And talk to them accordingly. Put it on a t-shirt, Carla. So I see Helen commenting in the chat. Hi, Helen. I picked up a question from the chat box that came from you also. So the panelists graciously responded to that one. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'm going to now create space for Bishop Carla A. Dunbar. Sometimes I call her Bishop Dr. Moore and also Pastor Christopher Morgan to join us back on stage for us to take any additional questions that our panelists may have. But before we go there, let me create some room for Bishop Dunbar and Pastor Morgan to give their thoughts on anything in this segment that kind of jumped out at you that you'd love to respond to. And let me start with Pastor Morgan, whose square is lit up on my screen.
Well, I think you young ladies did wonderfully well.
We're young, guys.
Yeah, well, you look young, and that's what counts, right? And so good job. Yeah, I would say for sure you guys do have a handle. I think you've described the issue that most people are dealing with, and the angst that they have, and a lot of people are hyped up on and defensive and so forth. So I look forward to answering some further questions.
Thank you for that, Pastor Morgan. Bishop Dunbar.
Yeah, let me tell you, girls, you did so well. Me like the joke thing. Do the t-shirt for true. I think I wear it. Probably for a different reason, but go ahead. But yeah, I liked it. I think as you said it, Kamala, but it came out of the discussion that rather than focusing on creating the divide or pulling different ways, make investments to ensure that your relationship work well. Because that again brings us back to what Reverend I was saying over in the first segment about purpose and understanding why you're a team together, understanding your why are you together? Why were you a decided team in the first place, so that you are not, moving away from this. And then, as you said, to Kamala, lead with curiosity. Or Carla, whoever said it. Yeah, lead with curiosity. You can ask some questions. I remember preaching a sermon in church. I think it was last week. I run a family church. I was saying to them, my sermon was more of a question as to what do you do when the people in your family do not follow the Jesus you love or the God that you love, when they don't follow? What you do? Can you force them? No. You have to remember, say, your perception of Jesus and theirs is different. You meet him already, they don't meet him. You understand? So you have to take all of these things into consideration. You're not the only voice of influence that They hear, so don't act like it, you know, like you're the bullbuck and top conqueror, you're the one who informs your choices. You have to, and allow them their choice, because it's a gift from God. Their choice to serve or not to serve. So the same thing we have to apply here. You understand? So you can ask questions, lead with curiosity, and ask questions like you said. Ask the questions. I mean, if he listen to them pain, and when you hear, say, how can I help? Can I offer you, you know, or whatever. Ask the question, because then probably can help you to learn something. So those are some good takeaways from me from the conversation, you know, about leading with curiosity and then investing in the relationship to ensure that it works well, rather than mitigate against it.
And I think it was Carla who said, even before, like, pandemic is not the only time for us to be focusing on relationships. If they're meaningful to us, we need to be showing that they're meaningful. What value are we putting on them? You know, how much work we're putting in, how much self-work are we doing to ensure that we are kind to those we say we love, and that we're growing the relationship. And I think it was Bishop Dr. Moore, here you are, see there? Bishop Dr. Dunbar, who spoke about earlier in the first segment, mentioned the piece about that vision. Right. And I think Pastor Morgan touched on it first before her about what is our vision for our relationship. Yes. And I remember hearing some celebrity couple speaking, and I took that away as a gem. They were talking about the value of creating a unified vision of love. Right. Because we say we love. What does that mean? What does that mean for you? What does it mean for you? What does our love do? Because love is also a verb, right? What does our love? Does our love build? Does our love share? Does our love break down? What does our love do? Because if we are committed to the love and say, yeah, man, we're in this thing, what does that mean practically in the world? Mm-hmm. You know? So I think that's always a good thing to practice too, especially in our romantic, committed, long-term relationships. What does it mean when we're moving from stage A to this other stage? And what is our unified vision? So we can have guiding principles and shared agreements as well for that. I see beautiful words of affirmation in the chat box, and I love my JN Life Class family so much. Carol says, support works for persons who are hesitant. I have proven this. Thank you for lending your voice to that, Carol. Terrain, hi again, Terrain, says, just be patient and understanding. Patricia says she's loving tonight's discussion. And Adesa, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, says, you ladies are hilarious and make discussing these hard and controversial topics much easier. We are grateful to hear that as well, because we know that when the topic is difficult, defensiveness can come in. Sometimes you have to just stop taking yourself so seriously, you know, and let people tell you where they are and what they need. So any other questions, I'll be happy to raise them to our panelists. But as we're preparing to say good evening on this Wellness Wednesday, we have another giveaway, right? And this giveaway is going to be maybe a little bit more difficult because you have to work for what you want. So Bishop Carla Dunbar is wearing a t-shirt. Bishop, don't sit up any straighter, just hunch down in your chair, look at oops. Her t-shirt has an acronym, right? And anybody who can tell me what the name of Bishop Dunbar's product that she's promoting on her shirt is, what the acronym stand for, will win for yourself from our gracious JN family an Amazon gift card to do some shopping on the interwebs later this evening or beyond. All right. So she's wearing a shirt and it says GYM. Let me give you a little hint. GYM is the acronym, right, Bishop? Accurate? What does GYM stand for? It's something that she has created, a powerful product and service that she offers. And I want to know who can tell me what it stands for.
GYMM. It's two M's.
GYMM. Oh, come on, Sister Suwana Malcolm, former panelist on Life Class. Just run out as I was giving up hope that anybody would get it, right? Come to Mrs. Malcolm, right? And Bishop, is she correct? Grow Your Marriage Ministry?
Grow Your Marriage Ministry.
Congratulations, Suwana. It wasn't so hard for you after all. Well done. I feel like Suwana Google it now, but let me not badmine her, right? Because Google is our friend in times like these. So congratulations, Suwana. And please do go ahead. Here Norman comes, Helen coming in, but they're a little bit late. So please go ahead, Suwana, and send an email. We have your contact already, but send an email to my JN Circle at jngroup.com to retrieve your prize. Importantly, I want to remind those of us who are on live class, especially those who are in the western part of Jamaica, that the JN Circle, the JN Foundation, is having a vaccination blitz. It's going to be October 29 and 30, and it's going to be at the Petersfield. Let me just remind myself, Petersfield Basic Schools in the West. All right. So for those of you who want to, yes, Petersfield Primary School in Westmoreland, October 29 and 30. That's this weekend, right? And the times are between 10 a.m., go in the morning, 10 o'clock, and it's up until 4 p.m. So if you were hesitant and you have now taken the decision that, you know what, let me run up on this decision for my well-being and the greater well-being, right? Then JN has you covered. The JN Foundation has you covered. All right. So do it for you, do it for us is the theme. And it will be at the Petersfield Primary School, October 29 and 30, coming right up to you. All right. Quick final words now. Pastor Morgan and Bishop spoke most recently. So let me run up to Carla and Simone to give their final takeaway for our viewing audience this evening.
For persons who are having difficulty, it helps to bring a third party in. We can't do this alone. There are persons who are trained to handle this. There are persons who would have been through this before. We just heard about Bishop Dunbar's Grow Your Marriage Ministry. Maybe that's a place to start. I don't know. But get a third party involved, because sometimes, because we're both in it, it's not easy to see what somebody else can see. Yes, I spoke before about the aerial view. It helps to have somebody help us to look on, just like you go to the doctor because you're feeling a pain and then they do the blood works and that kind of a thing. Get somebody to do your relationship blood works and help you to see that, hey, we could have done this thing this way. Yes, somebody with a totally different perspective. So I'm encouraging. Some of us might have had it gone wrong or not so right. It's not wrong yet. Yes, have somebody else, a third party, an independent person, not your friend. Because they might tend to lead to your side, not somebody who you thinking like you, but somebody totally independent of both of you. Have them look, have them examine, have them explore, and help you to navigate, because relationships are beautiful and we should enjoy them.
Absolutely. And to the question that just came in from Helen, we're not only talking obviously about romantic relationships or intimate relationships, but we're talking about relationships across the board. So intimacy, important, is not only about physical or sexual, it's about closeness. And so we can have intimate friendships, platonic friendships. We can have intimate relationships with our family members. And so we're talking across the board this evening. Carla?
Yes, I would say to anybody who is listening to this, this is a process. I think sometimes when we set out with the intention that me and you supposed to have one conversation and done, we have the one conversation and it don't done, get very frustrated. This is a process, and there will be, before we started this conversation, the time where we're having this conversation, maybe a time when we come to some type of conclusion. So while you're in the in-between, because that's where you are, respect that the in-between is an actual place to be, and ask yourself, what do I need in order to feel more comfortable in the in-between? And what am I willing to give so we can be comfortable in the in-between? Because I think sometimes we just want it to resolve. We want it to resolve. I want you to change your mind. I want you to, but it's not happening. And adding that pressure to it is not making it easier. And so if you can just kind of set up home where you are and try to make it a little bit more comfortable where you are, maybe things won't seem so desperate and it won't feel so impossible for you to just go through this process with somebody that you love.
Excellent. Bishop Dunbar, may I give you one little extra brata, 2 sentences to give your final thoughts. You're muted.
I just want us to remember that differences are to be celebrated. God is the one who created us different, and we have different thoughts and ideas and stuff and perspectives. Differences in relationships, whatever they are to be celebrated. And if we are going to allow our differences to part us, we have to remember that a divided home becomes a troubled home.
Come on now. Thank you, Bishop. Pastor Morgan, you get the last dege final word for this evening's class.
Well, let me end with a spiritual thought. I just want to encourage you, JN, you powerful persons of JN and so forth, that God didn't send you here to be safe. He sent you here to be dangerous. I'm not trying to preach, but you don't want to, you're not really here. You're not at JN to be passive and defensive. You're here to be active and live on the offense. If there is an enemy, if there is a challenge in front of you, it's not for your destruction, but for your elevation. Again, I'm not preaching. What I'm telling you is that at the root of a lot of our fears is the thought that these are the end times. These are end days. And this is possibly why God is allowing something. Those of you that grew up in church, these are not the end times. This is a beginning time for you. This COVID can be and must be a starting point for you. I believe it is a starting point. I believe it is a time for you to grow, not just go through this thing, but grow through it, to innovate, to create new, and to reform. My word, therefore, is you must step on top of your enemy and you must reform JN. Let's all be better. Let's all be stronger. Reform your relationships, right? We are reforming church, and God is doing powerful things when people have a positive outlook. What is God doing that is new? Let's not get inundated in who the biggest enemy is. Let us reform, let us be stronger, and let us be dangerous.
The Embracing Danger on Life class. Listen, so Pastor says not preaching, but he dropped a word right quick, yes. Right? I love that reform word. And it's a powerful point of reflection for us in every area of our life, spiritual, right? For those of us who are thusly minded, and also in terms of how we're living or literal, how are we spending our minutes and our days? How are we investing our energies? Powerful ending point of reflection for us to think about. Who am I connected to? Why am I connected to them? Why am I doing what I'm doing, right? And how can I reform into something more beautiful, more positive, and definitely having greater impact? I love it. And the audience does as well. Thank you so much, everybody. I saw some comments regarding possible projects in certain areas of your communities. Our JN circles are in several communities across Jamaica. Please reach out to the group to get more information on where they're based and how you can possibly perhaps discuss having some projects or find out if those projects already exist to better serve your communities in more, not just, we're not starting because we're doing it already, but in more practical ways perhaps. Thank you, everybody. Remember, this is 2 of 3 episodes down. So next week, Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., come back with a friend, come back with someone you're in relationship with, bring your coffee, your tea, your Milo, your Jerry and nephew, whatever you do, your water, your herbal infused water. Come back next week, Wednesday at 6:30 for another insightful conversation here in the Life Class series. Next week, we have our cadre of doctors, and we're going to be talking about chronic illnesses and COVID-19. And Bishop Dunbar, I got reliable word that we do in fact have a urologist confirmed for next week. So big things popping next week. Thank you again, everybody. Big up on yourself, panelists. I think we did an ace job this evening. Thank you for bringing your full selves, your insight, your warmth, your vision, your inspiration, and your truth to Life Class. Always a pleasure sharing space with you. And to our audience who keep coming back week after week with beautiful receptivity and energy, thank you always. Let me just pause to big up the team that you don't see. Miss Claudine Allen and that team at that level, and also Kevin, Whitney, Celia, and Pilar, who are behind the scenes every week. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for keep on coming, JN audience, and we'll see you all when? Next week, 6:30 p.m. for Wellness Wednesday, another time. Much love, take care of your good selves, and be well until we meet again.
Bless you all.
Take care, everybody. Until next week, be well.